The Art Center inspires creativity and contributes to
community well-being
through equitable access to
and engagement with visual arts.
We collaborate to offer exhibitions,
learning opportunities, artist development,
and cultural events centered on
art, artists, and art enthusiasts in the greater Corvallis area.
Welcome, everybody. This is Jenny Castle at the Art Center, and today I'm here with Jess Felix, who completed the Artist Accelerator Program in 2020. Today, we're going to chat a little bit about the new show in the main gallery here at the Art Center called Evolution of Practice. And Jess is going to give us a little bit of insight about her studio practice and the work that she made for this show. Jess, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So will you talk a little bit about why you applied to the Accelerator Program and then, and how your work changed after having that experience?
Sure. So I, in 2020, I looked into the Artist Accelerator Program and I saw that it was 4 months of studio time of my own studio. So that was a big, huge thing for me because I didn't have a studio at the time and I was kind of night times in my kitchen and stuff like that. So from there, having that 4 months of just dedicated space and time and access and kiln access has really allowed me to do larger work and work with clay bodies that I hadn't before. And so it was great.
And then after finishing the program, we were kind of sliding into lockdown, like right as you were finishing, right?
Yeah. So I was fortunate because we had built a tiny house on a friend's property and I converted that into my studio and it was in the forest and it was like trudging through mud to get there and bring, slabs of clay back and forth, as well as teaching clay classes. But I was able to have a studio and a space to continue. And so my work has kind of moved away from more figurative pieces and more into like organic shapes and growths and things.
Do you think that has something to do with the location of your studio?
Quite possibly. Yes, I think so. And I'm really happy with how this show has turned out and the pieces, how they stand out in the space.
We were talking earlier about how you repurpose pieces you've made in the past to create these sculptures. Can you talk a little bit about how you choose those things? And I was really interested in the previous functionality of some of the work that you've now made kind of dysfunctional in some kind of way by turning it into a totem or these pillars that you've made.
Yeah, I mean, I think having a busy family life and working life and everything. I can work on lots of different pieces. I also sell functional wear, but I deeply wanted to make something that was sculptural and express something from within. So I have been collecting all these pieces, and because I'm a hand builder, there's a lot more organic shapes and handprints and, glazes. So when you finish a piece and you don't know how it turns out, I'm relatively new and not a trained ceramicist. I'm a studied sculpture. So it's more about the forms that keep me excited, but the experimentation of clay, and how things crack and fizzle and interact with the kiln and learning all about those things, you can really see in my works. And it to me kind of represents also how you're trying to express something in communication with people and conversation, and these pieces are really conversational works. Yeah.
I agree. There's a communal aspect to almost all of these works. We talk a little bit about maybe one of the pieces in the show that surprised you the most, because we were talking about how all the glazes turned out how you imagined they would, and the process of piecing these sculptures together probably was very intuitive. So how were you surprised by the way some of these works turned out?
Oh, I'm always surprised when you open a kiln. I mean, every ceramicist is surprised and should be, because it's super exciting. But particularly the one migrating above ground, which is kind of mycelium kind of shapes. I thought we're going to be more like tie-dye galaxy, like blue and greens, and turned out to be browns, but which is perfect because it's just meant to be that way. So so it's experimentation with bodies of clay, so clay and surroundings, and clay and the chemicals interact crazily with, I use also interactive pigments, so that's also very exciting to find out and learn about.
As a novice, can you talk a little bit about what an interactive pigment is?
It is interactive.
A brief description for somebody who might be interested in exploring it.
So it's kind of like, I really don't, it's a pigment that has different types of chemicals in it, and that interacts with the clay body as well as the glazes that you put around it. So sometimes it will shimmer and shift and create really cool like tie-dye kind of mottled looks that you, if you put it next to another piece, it's going to change that side of the piece. So
it's dependent on its environment, basically, in the kiln? Okay, sweet. Okay, I wasn't sure what that was. But I love the idea that you kind of give up control, and you have such, I've seen your figurative work, you have a lot of control over the sculptures that you make, and then as you put them into the kiln, you kind of release that control in some ways intentionally?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you have several, I think you call them totems when you applied for the show in this exhibition right now. Can you talk a little bit about your process of putting those together?
I had lots of pieces that I wanted to do, like outdoor sculptural pieces for many years. So I was getting bits to drill through old clay pieces that didn't turn out quite right, and then other pieces that were specific about expressing like growth. I love making little casts of artichokes, so throughout the show you'll see artichoke-like growths or appendages on these hand-building clay pieces. So the totems are kind of thoughts and conversations and that converse with each other. Kind of like how in a conversation there might be something left unsaid, but it still has a form or it still has impact in the space. So I wanted to I was thinking about that. Things that are left unsaid, I guess.
That's actually really interesting. Like, I love that idea that you're creating an object for something that's missing, like in the world. Like, I think that's really beautiful. And I find it interesting that you were making this work during a time when a lot of us weren't communicating in the ways we were used to, because a lot of this work stemmed during the lockdown and during the pandemic, correct? Like, you started working in this way?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
And then I remember we were talking at the beginning as we were starting to plan the show, and you were home visiting family. Did that visit back to Australia affect the work that we're seeing in this exhibition?
Yes, it did, I think. Completely, yeah.
Tell me something.
Yeah, so I'm from Australia, so I went back. I hadn't been back for like 5 years. So I think finishing these pieces and these leftover bits and pieces, just like solidifying my own confidence, or not confidence, but my what I have to say through these pieces. My sense of home as well became more clear, and also growth and things that the environment that I've been in for so long, how that has impacted me. But going home, I think, was, like touchstone, back to your roots kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, grounded you before you started finishing all of these pieces. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about your practice. Do you want to share anything with the listeners about where they can find your work outside of this gallery, a website, social media, something like that?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Jess Felix Studio, and so things that I pull out of the kiln and failures and also final pieces are there. And then I have, if you're interested in buying functional pieces, my website is Hedra Ceramics, Hedra Ceramics.
Okay, and we'll put that on our website too, so people can go to theartcenter.net and find that information about Jess's practice. And she's also in the art shop. She's mouthing to me, which I should know that she's there. So that's great. You can find Jess in the art shop just off of the main gallery. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to TAC Makes. This is a new creative project at the Arts Center, and I hope you enjoy our learning curve as much as we do. You can find more episodes on YouTube and Spotify and on our website, theartscenter.net. That's arts with an S.